Hi, my name's Blair Lewis, and this is my case study for EDL 850. Some things I know about the case study is that it's Slattery Steno High School. It's a very affluent school and has very affluent students and parents. Kids seem to get everything that they want. Technology seems to be a huge influence on their lives. They have a new science teacher, Miss Tate, and a principal that seems to be very successful and have a successful school with high-achieving students. His name is Harvey Smith. He's been a principal for 9 years. I almost said he was a 9-year-old. He's been a principal for 9 years at the school, so he seems to know the clientele and the parents pretty well. Some other things I know about Miss Tate is that she comes from kind of a non-traditional background. She is what I would consider a more academic-driven teacher versus a relationship-building teacher. I think she's very knowledgeable and has very high expectations for her students and their work ethic and their achievement. I also think that maybe science or her content tends to be more of her focus, which sometimes you have to balance it with a relationship building aspect as well. For kids to buy into the content, you have to form those relationships. Some other things were that she was never married and that she lives alone, which seems to kind of tie in with the way she was feeling about the situation. And then also she has not implemented the principal's suggestion to fix the problem of the complaints that she had been getting. So that's something that I kind of found interesting, and we'll talk about a little bit later. Things I know about the incident. Miss Tate receives an email from someone that is unknown with a link to a Facebook page, and the page itself is kind of people bashing her. There's just some commentary about how discontent they are with her teaching, and one comment in particular says that she should disappear, and obviously the teacher is very concerned about this and reports it to the principal. Where the principal goes with it is he kind of tells her that he thinks that it was a prank and they'll look into it, and he's going to talk to the kid that she thinks did it and also report it to the technology department and see maybe if they could do something about it. There's lots of things that were kind of left out of this case study, which I found interesting. One was, when was this Facebook group started? Is this kids from last year that she had? Because this is now her second year teaching. And if this was last year's kids that maybe have graduated, or that they haven't used the group in over a year, then this kind of becomes a non-issue because there's nothing really, retroactively, you're not going to go back and punish kids a year ago that made this page and used it. Something I was interested to see was if there's a list of people in the group, because I've never heard of a Facebook group that had all anonymous people that were members of the group. So I'd like to see who was on the list, because maybe it's parents and maybe they're the ones that are causing the issue. And the kids don't even need to be involved in the matter. I doubt it is, but it could be. I'd like to know what the comments actually say, because if it's constructive criticism, which it probably isn't, but if it is, there's not really much legally they can do because the people have a right to complain about her teaching style. But if it's being critical of her and bashing her as a person, that becomes bullying, and we can't do that. I'd like to know who sent Miss Tate the original email telling her about the Facebook group, because clearly that person was concerned with her and her well-being and thought that she should know about what was happening. And I'd like to know who that person is, and if they knew about the group, then they probably know a lot more. Figuring out who that person is probably the key to this whole thing. I'd like to know what were Mr. Smith's suggestions for her fixing the relationships with the kids and creating a more positive environment for them, and why she chose to not implement them, because I bet she tried and just was unsuccessful. I'd like to know what the district policies are for the threats, especially ones saying that they want her to disappear, because that can be taken very seriously, and I think kids don't realize the power of their words and the amount of trouble and problems that they can cause by using those words. I would also like to know if there's been documentation of the complaints about Miss Tate, because if he can figure out that there's like 4 families and their kids who have made the most complaints continually over time, those are probably the 4 people you would like to start with when it comes to questioning and them being a part of this. So I feel like documentation is very key. Identifying the problem is, for me, pretty easy. 1, the technology misuse and mishandlement by the kids or whoever made this group to vent about Miss Tate's teaching clearly was uneducated on the ramifications of online bullying. 2, I think that there are disgruntled parents over this rigorous course load because their kids have never struggled and they don't like it. And they don't want to have kids who have a B in zoology when maybe Miss Tate's class is just very rigorous and they're used to having easy peasy classes where everyone gets an A, because teachers don't want to deal with the parents. They don't want to deal with the pushback, and so they dumb down their classes so the kids do well. I'm not sure if that's the case here, but I think that would be a huge problem. And then also just the rising tension for Miss Tate's students with no action. It's kind of like when people are struggling through something and they ask for help and you don't assist them and you give them more of the you need to work through it on your own type of thing, it creates a lot of tension when then the kids feel they're being punished, aka their low grades, for not understanding when you're not helping them. And so I feel like Miss Tate clearly needs some type of mentoring program that's not been implemented at this school for new teachers. And she is struggling and no one's really helping her. And so then it's hard for her to implement anything to help the kids. My plan of action would be definitely to document the email address which contacted Miss Tate, call the police, and file a report just in case something were to happen where a student threw an egg at her car or said something to her about the Facebook post. Anything where it is then brought up again. It's just good to have documentation of all of these things that you've witnessed or implemented to try and fix the problem. I would also check the Facebook page for clues and information, probably because I'd be a little bit nosy to figure out who the heck made the group. I would speak with all of Miss Tate's classes and let them know of the ramifications of doing something like this, and that we will be finding who was responsible for it, and there will be consequences for those actions. I would encourage the kids also, when I talk to them, to go talk to Miss Tate and get to know her, because I bet they would find that they actually like her if they just took the time to get to know her and ask her questions, especially if they're confused. Most people, and I'm not saying this for all people, most teachers like to help kids, so she would probably like to help. I would call in Miss Tate's students one at a time and see if anyone knows something, but I would definitely also contact the parents, not just like call their kids in and grill them. I would contact the parents and let them know of the situation and everything that's going on, so that way they're aware. I would utilize the technology department for sure at the district and see if they could maybe take the page down after we printed everything off and got copies of it all. I would definitely see if there's a way to get that page taken down. I would also develop a plan for Miss Tate because she clearly needs professional development and a mentor of some type to help her through this. The resolution: if students caught, they need to be given a punishment, obviously. Parents need to be informed of how we treat this type of behavior, as well as the site needs to be taken down permanently. Miss Tate needs to have a mentor to help her. I would definitely say we need to be proactive and not reactive. See if this could have been prevented. I would definitely have to think about how I would feel if I were Miss Tate, because I would be pretty messed up if a student felt that way about me and did something like that. So I feel like we need to think about how she's feeling right now. I think we also need to think about if we were her students and we were frustrated like that, where is a positive outlet or a better way that we could have handled that situation. I definitely value the input of parents and students, as well as Miss Tate, on how we can handle the situation better in the future. I feel a lot of disappointment and frustration of how the parents have taught their kids to use social media, and maybe not wanting their kids to be in a rigorous course load. I would also think to myself, as a leader, am I doing what's best for the kids? Am I keeping them in a safe environment where they can learn? Some unresolved issues was I just didn't know when the page was made. Honestly, my biggest issue was just how can I help her form better relationships with students? I feel like that's the key to all of this. Knowing the appropriate consequences for something like this is important as well, because I don't know if we need to get law enforcement involved or if it's really not that big of a deal. I'm just not sure. Also, does Miss Tate need help with her mental health regarding the incident? Because as I said, I would be pretty shaken up if a student said something like that about me. 3 ways that I saw the use of integrity when handling and doing what's best for kids is just, it seemed like he followed the district policies and guidelines, which was number 1. Not putting the incident aside or trying to push it under the rug or underreacting just to Miss Tate. I feel like it's very important that her concerns are real and that we need to treat it as a threat. I think it's important not to overshare information to create some type of drama or scene or rumors. I'm sure Miss Tate is already embarrassed enough, and we don't need to share this information with the entire world. Fairness, just not placing blame without concrete evidence or a confession, making sure that the punishment actually fits the crime. Again, I'm not sure what that punishment would be, but making sure we don't overreact to a prank or a joke or just kids venting. I think it's also important that we have good communication from the parents, the students, and the teacher to find a fix for this problem and make sure that we're all on the same page and this never happens again. To treat this in an ethical manner, I think we would need to prioritize Miss Tate's safety first. Make sure that these threats are not credible. I think also we need to keep open communication with the parents just to make sure we're not communicating with the kids and questioning the kids without their consent or without the parents knowing. I think it's also very important that we use professional language and try not to be condescending towards Miss Tate and just give her the love and support that she needs in this time, and then set her up to be successful in the future with some type of mentorship program. But that's all I have. So thanks so much for watching. See ya later.